The night hung heavy over Pine Ridge, the kind of darkness that felt alive, pressing against the walls of the shuttered mall. A lone K-9 sat outside the emergency exit, ears twitching, claws scraping the frost-hardened concrete. Its eyes glinted in the dim glow of the street lamp, fixed on a patch of earth that no one had noticed before. Security guards shuffled nervously nearby, uneasy in the emptiness. When the dog dug, the ground surrendered something buried too deep, too wrong. A scream didn't escape the night. It was swallowed. But the fear, the weight of what lay beneath, would not be. Before we proceed to Chapter 1, consider sprinkling a subtle, natural-sounding reminder for viewers. If you enjoy stories that grip and linger, make sure to like and subscribe. The wind cut across Pine Ridge like a serrated blade, rattling the loose metal panels of the abandoned mall. Inside, the fluorescent lights had long since died, leaving only the weak orange glow of street lamps to fight back the darkness. Officer Grant Mullen tightened his jacket against the cold, the collar scratching at his neck. He'd been called in after the K-9 unit, Ranger, refused to leave a patch of ground near the emergency exit. The animal's posture was rigid, almost statuesque, but the tense quiver of his tail betrayed something more. "Something's here," Ranger seemed to say with a steady gaze. Grant crouched beside the dog, the concrete cold and gritty beneath his fingers. His boots crunched over frost-hardened earth, and he noticed for the first time the way the soil looked disturbed, as if something had shifted recently, though the surrounding area was untouched. His breath misted in the freezing air, and a nagging unease settled over him. "Damn dog won't move," muttered Javier, the mall's head of security, his voice low and tight. He was a tall man with shoulders like a bulldozer, but tonight he looked smaller somehow, his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. "I've been walking this lot for 20 years, and never have I seen Ranger behave like this." Grant glanced up at the street lamp, the halo of light flickering. "You said the cameras are offline?" "Yeah," Javier replied, voice brittle. "Power surge last week. Haven't had a tech come out yet. It's just us out here." He glanced at the empty parking lot, shadows pooling like ink. Not that it matters. Nothing ever happens here. But Grant didn't believe him. Ranger pawed at the dirt, the claws scraping with a sharp, unnerving sound. Then he dug deeper, over and over, until the dog's nose was almost pressed to the soil. Grant felt his stomach knot. "Javier, whatever's under there, you need be honest. Did someone bury something recently?" Javier hesitated, his jaw tight. "Nothing," he said finally. "We've had some kids mess around, but nothing serious." Grant wasn't convinced. He reached for his flashlight, flicking it on. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on a small, rusted corner of metal sticking from the earth. The dog's growl rose, low and guttural, a warning. "Move," Grant said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. He crouched lower, heart hammering. With gloved hands, he dug around the object. It was a box, old, battered, nailed shut, with streaks of rust that looked disturbingly like dried blood. Ranger barked, a short, harsh sound that echoed across the empty lot. "Holy, what is that?" Javier whispered, his voice breaking. Grant pried at the box with his flashlight between his teeth, nails scraping against the cold metal. He opened it slowly. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, face down. When he lifted one, his stomach dropped. A child, no more than 10, eyes wide with fear, hands bound. A second photo showed her in the same setting, but something was different. Her face streaked with tears, the background dark and indistinct. Grant swallowed hard, the cold suddenly pressing on his chest like a weight. "Where, how?" Javier stammered. Grant's hands shook as he flipped more photos. Faces, places, moments that didn't make sense together. Some were familiar. He recognized the streets, the parks of Pine Ridge. And then one photo made him stop. A man, in the shadow of the mall, holding the same child. His eyes, they were empty, almost dead. "Javier, who's behind this?" Grant's voice was sharp, trembling. I don't know," Javier admitted. His skin was pale, lips pressed tight. I mean, I shouldn't have told you this, but there's a group, locals. They do things, awful things. I thought it was just stories, but his voice trailed off. Grant's mind raced. Ranger pawed again at the box, desperate now, as if urging Grant to do something more. Call it in, Grant said, pulling out his radio. Evidence. Photos. Potential kidnapping. Send backup and forensic team. Now. Static hissed in his earpiece. No response. He cursed. Damn it. Tower must be down. Javier's phone rang suddenly, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. The tone was clipped, almost mechanical. Did you dig? A voice demanded, low and cold. What did you find? Javier froze. Who is this? Don't lie, the voice said. If anyone talks, the girl dies. Grant grabbed the phone, tension spiking. Step away from the line. Tell me everything. But it was too late. The line went dead. The cold wind picked up again, slicing through their jackets like knives. Ranger growled, a sound that seemed to vibrate in concrete. A sudden movement caught Grant's eye. Across the parking lot, a figure emerged from the shadows. The man moved slowly, deliberately, and though the distance made his features indistinct, Grant could sense the malice radiating from him. Ranger barked, bolting forward, fur bristling. Stay back, Grant shouted, drawing his sidearm. The man froze, hands raised slightly, then turned and disappeared into the darkness behind them all. Grant exhaled slowly, the adrenaline surging, cold sweat prickling at his neck. He knows we found something, he muttered. Javier shook, voice barely audible. We need to leave. Now. No, Grant said. We need answers. And we need that girl. Ranger whined, tugging at his leash, unwilling to leave the box. Grant followed the dog's gaze to the emergency exit door. Scratches lined the metal frame, recent, frantic. Someone had tried to escape, or had been forced in. Grant pressed his palm to the cold surface of the door, his mind racing. This mall, it's more than empty. Someone's been hiding here, and we just found the tip of it. The wind howled, carried with a faint echo of laughter. Childlike, but hollow, almost inhuman. Grant shivered. He glanced at Ranger, whose ears twitched, every muscle taut. The dog's instincts were screaming danger, and Grant knew better than to ignore them. Javier, Grant said softly, we need a plan. But whatever we do, no one leaves this lot alone. Not until we know who's behind this. Javier nodded, eyes wide, but before he could respond, a loud, metallic clang rang out from inside the mall. Both men froze. The sound was followed by footsteps, heavy, deliberate, moving closer. The shadows inside the broken glass doors twisted and stretched, reaching toward them as if alive. Grant's flashlight trembled in his grip. Ranger growled, hackles raised. The chill that had been creeping along the edges of the lot now filled every corner of their minds. Pine Ridge wasn't just dark. It was waiting, watching, and whatever lay buried, whatever had been hiding beneath the snow and concrete, wasn't finished. The emergency exit door groaned as Grant pushed it open, the rusty hinges shrieking into the night. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay, a suffocating mixture of mold, mildew, and something far fouler he couldn't place. Ranger patted ahead, paused silent on the cracked tiles, ears swiveling at every distant sound. The beam of Grant's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing rows of abandoned storefronts, their shattered windows like staring eyes. Javier followed reluctantly, eyes darting nervously. This place, it gives me the creeps, he muttered. You said you've been through worse, Grant, but this feels alive. Grant didn't respond. His focus was on the faint smell, something metallic and organic, carried on the stale air. It led them deeper into the maze of the old mall. The echoes of their movements bounced off walls, magnifying every footstep, every breath. They reached the central atrium. A collapsed skylight allowed a thin shaft of moonlight to cut across the floor, illuminating a trail of footprints, bare, small, and smeared with dried blood. Ranger froze, nose twitching, ears flat. He growled low in his throat, the sound vibrating through the empty hall. Grant knelt, examining the prints. They led toward the back of the mall, where the maintenance corridors twisted like veins behind the main stores. "Someone brought her in here," he whispered, "and they didn't want anyone to find her." Javier swallowed, swallowing hard. "I should have said something earlier. I knew they were coming here. I thought I could keep it quiet." Grant's gaze snapped to him. "Who, Javier? Who are you protecting?" Javier shook his head, voice tight. I wanted to. I thought if I stayed silent, it wouldn't happen again. I never thought anyone would dig this up." His eyes glistened in the pale light. "It's worse than you think. This isn't just Pine Ridge, it's a network. People you'd never suspect. People you trust." Grant's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed that Javier was hiding pieces of a puzzle far bigger than they could see. But right now, the priority was finding the girl. Ranger tugged at his leash, leading them through a narrow service corridor with the shadows pressed close, thick and suffocating. The corridor ended at a rusted steel door, padlock broken and swinging loosely. Behind it, faint sounds, soft muffled sobs, drifted into the hall. Grant froze, pulse hammering. "She's here," he breathed. Javier's hand went to his face, rubbing his eyes. I can't believe I'm about to do this," he muttered. Grant moved to the door, kicking it open carefully. Inside, a small room revealed itself, stacked with crates and debris. The sobs became clearer. And then he saw her, Lily. She crouched in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees, dirt and bruises marking her small frame. Her eyes were wide, alert, terrified. "Hey," Grant said softly, keeping his tone low, calming. "It's okay. You're safe now. Ranger's here too." The girl flinched at the voice but didn't move. Ranger lowered himself, lying down a few feet away, giving her space. His presence seemed to anchor something in the air, a silent reassurance. Grant glanced at Javier. "We need to get her out. Now." Before Javier could respond, the sound of boots on concrete echoed from outside the room. Someone was coming, fast, deliberate. The air shifted. Fear became electric. Grant crouched beside Lily. "Hide behind me. Don't make a sound." The door rattled. Then it slammed open, and a man stepped in, a tall figure, face shadowed by the hood of his jacket. His eyes gleamed in the dim light, hard and cold. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Voice low, controlled. "She's ours." Grant's hand hovered over his weapon. "Not anymore," he said. "She's coming with us." The man's gaze flicked to Ranger. The dog growled, stepping forward, teeth bared. For a moment, the intruder froze, calculating. Then he lunged. Grant fired. The shot rang out, echoing through the hollow mall. The man collapsed, clutching his shoulder, a scream ripping from his throat. Ranger barked, lunging to pin him down. The sound of struggle, the smell of blood, filled the corridor. "Go!" Grant yelled at Lily. She didn't move at first, paralyzed by fear, but Ranger nudged her gently with his nose. She scrambled to her feet, clutching Grant's hand. They bolted through the service corridor, Ranger leading, Grant shielding Lily. Outside, the moon hung low, casting long shadows over the parking lot. They didn't stop until they reached the patrol car, breath misting in the cold night air. Grant's hands shook as he drove, eyes darting to every shadow, every empty stretch of road. "You okay?" he asked Lily. She nodded, silent, exhausted. Javier slumped in the passenger seat, staring out the window. "I should have called it in sooner," he muttered. "They're everywhere, people you think you know." Grant's jaw clenched. "Then we do it right now. No mistakes. No hesitation. We take them all down." For the first time, Lily spoke, her voice barely audible. "Why? Why were they doing this?" Grant's hand tightened on the wheel. "Some people, they do things they shouldn't. But you're safe now. We're going to make sure no one hurts you again." The silence in the car was thick, tense. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the distant hum of the town's nightlife. But Grant knew Pine Ridge's darkness wasn't gone. It had simply shifted, lurking in corners they hadn't yet seen. Back at the mall, Ranger sat outside the emergency exit, watching, alert. His instincts hadn't been wrong. He'd sensed a danger, the evil buried beneath the surface, and he had led them straight to it. But Grant knew this was just the beginning. The phone rang in the patrol car, shattering the fragile calm. Javier answered with a trembling hand. The same low, mechanical voice. You found her. Good. But you don't understand. There are others. And now you've seen too much. Grant slammed his hand on the dashboard. Who is this? What do you want? The line went dead. Javier exhaled, shaking. It's not just Pine Ridge. It's bigger, much bigger. Grant's gaze drifted to Lily, sleeping in the back seat, exhaustion and relief washing over her small face. He felt a hollow ache in his chest, anger, fear, and profound sense of responsibility. The darkness had reached into their lives, into her life, and now it was their turn to fight it. Ranger whined softly, nuzzling Grant's hand, anchoring him. The dog had led them here, and he would see them through what came next. Grant knew one thing. The truth wasn't just buried under them all. It was in every lie, every secret, every face that looked trustworthy in the daylight. And to save Lily and everyone else, they would have to dig deeper, confront the people who had hidden in plain sight, and endure the darkness that Pine Ridge had nurtured for years. As the first rays of dawn brushed the horizon, Grant made a promise, silent and unshakable. No one would be safe until every last thread of this network was unraveled, and he would stop at nothing to do it. But even in the pale light, shadows lingered, and Grant knew this was only the beginning. The morning fog clung to Pine Ridge like a shroud, curling around the edges of the mall and thickening in the wooded outskirts. Grant parked the patrol car a short distance away, letting Ranger lead the way back. The dog's instincts were taut, every step precise, every sniff measured. The box, the photographs, the girl, they had uncovered only a fraction of the truth. Now, Grant knew it was time to confront the root of the network. Javier stayed close, pale and tense. Grant, I still don't know if I'm ready for this, he muttered. Some of these people, they're not just strangers. You know them. I know them. We trust them. Grant's eyes were hard. Trust is a luxury we don't have anymore. Not here. Not with what we've seen. Every second we wait, someone else disappears. We can't hesitate. The entrance to the maintenance corridor smelled of mold, decay, and the lingering coppery tang of old blood. Ranger stopped abruptly, ears flattening. From behind a stack of crates, a figure emerged. The man's face was familiar, too familiar. Javier gasped. It's Sheriff Caldwell. Grant froze. Sheriff Robert Caldwell had been a pillar of the community, well-liked, well-respected, the kind of man everyone trusted. Yet the photos, the terror, the phone calls, it all pointed to him. Caldwell's smile didn't reach his eyes, which gleamed with a cold, calculating intent. You shouldn't have come here, Caldwell said, voice low, almost conversational. But underneath, Grant could feel the threat coiling. Curiosity will get you killed in Pine Ridge. Javier stepped back, guilt and fear etched into his features. I didn't think. You knew, Caldwell interrupted, cutting him off. You've been feeding them pieces, trying to protect yourself, trying to hide. But hiding never saves anyone. Ranger growled, a low, guttural warning that vibrated in the hollow walls. Grant's hand rested on his weapon, but he didn't raise it. He needed more than force. He needed truth leverage confession. Why? Grant asked, voice cold. Why a child? Why Lily? Why all of this? Caldwell's eyes narrowed. Control, fear, tradition. You think small towns are innocent? They're not. They're cages, Grant. We keep people in line. We keep secrets. And sometimes sacrifices are necessary. The words were poison. Grant's stomach twisted. He glanced at Javier. The betrayal was crushing. Javier had been complicit in silence, allowing the network to operate for fear, for self-preservation. Yet he had led them here. Moral grayness clashed violently in Grant's mind. You're done hiding, Grant said. You've lost. Caldwell laughed softly, the sound hollow and cruel. Do you think so? Pine Ridge never loses. It adapts. You've only scratched the surface. Suddenly, movement in the shadows. A second figure, masked, stepped forward with a gun aimed at Grant. A shot rang out, smashing a nearby glass display. The tension snapped. Ranger lunged, teeth sinking into the assailant's arm. The gun clattered to the floor. "Run!" Grant shouted, grabbing Lily's small hand. She stumbled but didn't resist, her trust in him absolute. The corridors became a maze of chaos. Grant, Javier, and Lily weaving between crates, Ranger ahead, fighting off threats, barking and snapping at shadows that lurked in corners. Caldwell's voice echoed, shouting orders to unknown accomplices. They burst into the open atrium, and Grant froze. Dozens of photographs were spread across the floor, pinned to walls. Faces of children, townspeople, victims, and witnesses, all connected in a silent testimony of Caldwell's empire. Grant's heart sank. "We have to burn it," Javier said, almost whispering, panic in his voice. "Destroy the evidence. They'll use it to cover everything up." Grant hesitated. The thought of destroying the proof that could bring Caldwell and his network down went against every instinct. Yet the danger was immediate. A calculated decision had to be made. "Ranger, cover us," Grant commanded. The dog barked sharply, taking position at the nearest corridor. Grant grabbed lighter fluid and a discarded rag, dousing the photographs. Flames licked the paper, curling and blackening, the smoke stinging their eyes. Caldwell's enraged shouts echoed through them all, but the inferno consumed the evidence faster than any human hand could intervene. And then the twist. As the flames roared, a figure emerged behind Grant. Javier, holding a second set of photographs, smirking. "You really thought you could trust me?" he said. Grant spun, incredulous. "You why?" Javier's expression was calm, almost serene. "Because I had to survive. You think I didn't weigh every risk? Every step? I'm part of this too. But not you, Grant. You're the variable." Before Grant could react, Javier bolted with Lily toward a secondary exit. Ranger lunged, teeth snapping at Javier's coat, but the man's grip was strong. Grant cursed, adrenaline surging, tore between chasing Javier and ensuring the fire destroyed Caldwell's network. Seconds stretched into eternity. Finally, the flames consumed the last photograph. Caldwell screamed, realizing the evidence was gone. Grant's hand rested on Ranger's head. He'd lost the girl, but the immediate threat of the network's proof had been neutralized. Outside, the fog thickened. Grant could see Javier's silhouette in the distance, disappearing into the trees with Lily. Rage and helplessness twisted his stomach. But he knew one thing. Javier had underestimated the power of someone driven by resolve and moral clarity. Grant turned to Caldwell, who was cornered in the atrium, his expression a mix of fury and disbelief. "It's over," Grant said. "Your network dies here, with you. Pine Ridge won't let you hide anymore." Caldwell laughed bitterly. "You think one fire, one arrest can undo decades? Pine Ridge will remember me long after you're gone." Grant didn't flinch. He radioed backup, finally reaching the tower. The sound of approaching sirens reverberated through the mall. Caldwell's empire would crumble. The network would unravel. But Lily was still out there. Weeks later, Lily was recovered safely, returned to her family. She spoke little of Javier, only that he had helped and betrayed her in the same heartbeat. The experience left scars deeper than bruises, visible only in her quiet, haunted eyes. Grant sat outside the mall one evening, Ranger lying at his feet. The parking lot was empty, the wind carrying the distant hum of Pine Ridge's streets. He watched the sun sink below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lot. "Some victories aren't complete," he murmured. Ranger's ears twitched, as if understanding. "But we keep fighting. We don't let the darkness win, not completely." A single photograph, one that had slipped from Javier's coat, fluttered from a tree branch nearby. Grant picked it up. It was Lily, smiling faintly, unaware of the betrayal that had carried her through the night. He folded it carefully, tucking it into his pocket. The past could never be erased. But the future, fragile, uncertain, and painfully human, was worth protecting. The K-9 sat alert beside him, watching the empty lot, vigilant, loyal, unflinching. And Grant knew, as long as there were people like Ranger, there was hope, even in the shadows of Pine Ridge.